Hey class, welcome back for more later 20th century, I should say, and contemporary or 21st century women writers. And the one that we are talking about now is Jhumpa Lahiri. And the work of hers that we read this week is called A Temporary Matter. It's a short story. All right. Well, um, if you look at the printed out lecture, there is a lovely photo of Jhumpa Lahiri. And there are several links. There is the publisher's website for Jhumpa Lahiri and her works, featuring biographical information, reviews, interviews, press event information. Um, there's a YouTube link with a Charlie Rose interview with Jhumpa Lahiri on a different of her works. Um, and There's a 2008 NPR interview with Jhumpa Lahiri on her struggle to feel American, and a YouTube link that presents a conversation between Jhumpa Lahiri and director Mira Nair, who directed Jhumpa Lahiri's adaptation of her novel of the same name called The Namesake. So yeah, that was made into a film starring called The Namesake, starring Cal Penn and Irfan Khan. There's an NPR interview with Jhumpa Lahiri on her first novel, which was The Namesake, and another NPR interview with, let's see, another one about the adaptation of her novel into a film, and that's The Namesake, and then a trailer actually for the movie adaptation of The Namesake. That Jhumpa Lahiri's first novel. All right, and it was made into a very successful movie called The Namesake. So you may have seen it in theaters. You certainly can watch it, I guess, from many different streaming services. All right, Jhumpa Lahiri. She is actually a British um, writer. She was born in 1967, so really recently, especially since I consider myself not too old yet, and I was born in the 1960s. Her name when she was born was Nilanjana Sudeshna, and she was born in London, England, to Bengali parents. But she moved to the United States in 1969, so she didn't live there for too long. Seems as if she must have been about 2 years old when she moved from England to the United States. She later became a naturalized U.S. citizen and grew up in Rhode Island, where her father worked as a librarian at the University of Rhode Island, and her mother worked as a teacher. To preserve their Bengali heritage, she and her family often visited relatives in Calcutta, India. That's where many Bengali hail from, and that's where the Bengali language is spoken. In the elementary school, one of Jumpa's teachers started calling Jumpa by her nickname, which was Jumpa, because it was easier to pronounce than Jumpa's given name of Nilanjana, of which Jhumpa says she was so embarrassed because she always felt as if she were, quote, causing someone pain just by being who she was, unquote. This attitude towards names and her Indian identity surfaces again in her critically acclaimed novel turned popular film, The Namesake, starring Kal Penn as Gogol and Irfan Khan as his father, that I mentioned earlier, that we have several links about if you'd like to know more about that movie or even watch it. So it's quite good. Jhumpa earned a bachelor's degree in English literature from Barnard College in 1989, and then from Boston University she earned a master's degree in English and creative writing and a PhD in Renaissance studies. She started teaching creative writing for Boston College and finessed short stories she had developed as a graduate student there. In 1999, she published these stories in a collection called The Interpreter of Maladies, a title that had actually come to her years before as she had met up with a friend who interpreted for doctors with patients who did not speak English. So that was the title of their job, interpreter of maladies. So they would interpret for the people who didn't speak English, the illness or whatever the reason they were coming to see the doctor, and then, interpret back from the doctor to the patient. And so it works as a metaphorical title, right? Interpreter of maladies. In other words, these short stories are interpreting people's problems or challenges into short stories that we can take meaning from. This collection met with such immediate critical acclaim that it garnered the 2000 Pulitzer Prize in Literature. So we've read about many people, many of our women's writers have won the Pulitzer prizes, and here this one, Jhumpa Lahiri won for her very first collection of short stories. So that's pretty exciting. And she had, graduated not too soon. No, I mean, not too long before she actually published these short stories that she'd worked on when she was a creative writing instructor at Boston College, where she, finessed those stories that she had written as a graduate student. The story that we read for class, it's called A Temporary Matter, and it was published in 1999 as part of that collection. Um, it comes from that interpreter of maladies, the one that won the 2000 Pulitzer Prize in Literature. It's about the problems of Indian immigrants negotiating two very different worlds, their new homeland along with the home of their ancestry. Many immigrants are caught between these two worlds. They have to straddle both and figure out ways to incorporate their heritage, with their new life and make them both coexist, in one way or another. The story we read takes negotiation to the marital level, where a couple negotiates the complexities of personal loss, daily life, and marital distance. Jhumpa's writing is known for its simple everyday language and use of common activities as lenses through which to study much broader, more deeply philosophical and humanly engaging issues. Jhumpa's next work was the aforementioned novel The Namesake, made into the 2007 popular film of the same name. So her career just took off. She's highly successful at a young age, and uh, her work really caught on in a very popular sense in terms of the Pulitzer Prize in literature and the successful Hollywood movie. Um, Juba's next highly anticipated work was another short story collection called Unaccustomed Earth, which debuted in April 2008 as the #1 work on the New York Times bestseller list. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this short story of hers that we read that again negotiates two worlds. There is the old life of one's heritage, and the immigrants' new experience of life in their new land, and then also the negotiation of life as a single person with life as a married person, and how we either make that work or not, and the consequences, and also negotiating personal loss and the struggles of school and work. So I turn you over now to the anthology to read more about Jhumpa Lahiri and her life and times and the works that she's written, and in particular, to read the work of hers that we studied this week, A Temporary Matter, the short story, published in 1999. Enjoy!